welcome to my channel. It's been a while. I've been away for a while, but now I'm back. As you can see, we had our baby and we're back. I felt that this is the right time to talk about what nobody really tells you about postpartum, or rather after what the experience you go through after childbirth. And boy, oh boy, with your first baby, there are so many things that you get to learn on the way that nobody really tells you about. You really don't, you know, when it comes to pregnancy, the first, second, third trimester, you get to learn so much from people. You get to Google and know what is happening and really get to understand what you're going through. But nobody tells you about the fourth trimester, which is the first few months after giving birth. So today I'll be talking about what I went through. Of course, this is my third baby that I just had my third baby. So I've written down my experiences, or rather what nobody tells you about what the experience after childbirth. And I've written them down so that I don't get to jump any. Number one thing that nobody tells you is you're going to have sleepless nights, because the baby, first of all, has a very small tummy, so the baby will need to feed more often. Secondly, the baby is not really used to the new environment, so they're also trying to get used to the new environment, and with that they're going to be waking up a lot. And I also learned another thing that causes the baby not to sleep so long is to avoid sudden infant death syndrome. Apparently it is something that the baby is made to be like that, so that they don't have the sudden infant death. They don't experience the sudden infant death. So you're going to have sleepless nights. So if those people who sleep through the night, my friend, you sahau, because from now on you just have to live with that. Secondly, breast engorgement. Your breasts are going to engorge. They're going to be so huge, and they're going to have so much milk in them, and it's going to be so uncomfortable. But with time, at least as the baby keeps breastfeeding, at least that the engorgement reduces, and you get now back to you're able to, maybe I can say, the demand and supply. There is now a balance between the demand and supply. And the reason why we normally get this engorgement is because the baby is sleeping a lot. During the first two months or so, the baby sleeps a lot. So even when the baby is sleeping, the supply is continuing. So you tend to have a lot of milk. Third, your nipples will crack, and you will feel so much pain when the baby is breastfeeding. Every time the baby starts to breastfeed, you'll just be in pain, but you have no choice. You have to feed the baby, and regardless of the nipples cracking, and you're gonna have to feed your baby anyway. And anyway, the more you feed the baby, the better for you, because the suckling also heals the nipples. And another thing that can heal the nipples is you can apply some lanolin cream. The other thing, latching is going to be hard. You know, we normally think that breastfeeding is easy and it just comes naturally. No, it doesn't. Latching is going to be hard for some people. No, not actually for some people, for everybody. With the first baby, it's going to be hard for the baby to latch properly, because again, if the baby doesn't latch properly, it causes the nipples to crack, and so you're going to be in so much pain. So breastfeeding doesn't really come doesn't come naturally, in as much as we might think it's just a matter of placing the baby on the breast and then feeding. So latching is going to be tricky for the first month or so. So number 5, if you go through an episiotomy, in this case, an episiotomy is where you have to be cut open. In case of a natural birth, you have to be cut open for the baby to come out. When you go through an episiotomy, my friend, you'll need to sit on a seat's bath, yani maji ya chumvi, and it's going to be so painful for the first few days. You can imagine the pain of a seat's bath, nipples cracking, breast engorgement, mtoto ndio huyo anakulilia. It's just motherhood. Number 6, you're going to still look pregnant even after giving birth to your baby. So in case someone meets with you, but anyway, at that time you won't be walking around much. But basically, you're going to still look pregnant even after childbirth. In fact, immediately after childbirth, you'll look like you're still expectant. As some days move on, as your uterus is contracting, at least as the uterus goes back to the normal size, now your belly is going to look more like someone who is not pregnant. The other thing on the uterus contraction, that's number 7. As the uterus contracts, you're going to experience some excruciating pain. And when I say excruciating pain, it is the pain that it's more like the labor pains, the contractions that you go through before you give birth to your baby. So basically, you're going to go through some pain, and you can imagine now you have these contractions, and that will normally happen when the baby is breastfeeding. Once the baby starts breastfeeding, once the baby is on the breast, the contractions begin. And so as your baby is breastfeeding, you're cracked on your cracked nipples. At the same time, your uterus is contracting and you're feeling some labor pains. So it's all going to be pain for the first few days. Let nobody lie to you that it's going to be easy, because we normally have this we normally imagine that, especially as a first-time mom, at least I did. As a first-time mom, I used to think that once I have my baby, then I'm going to relax and it's all going to be easy thereafter. Little did I know, kuzaa si kazi, kazi ni kulea. That one is so true. By the way, hapo ndio nilijua kweli wahenga hawakukosea. Now, number 8. You're going to still go, this is still more pain, by the way. It's all pain. Yeah, today's episode is really about the pain. So you'll go through some kind of a second labor. Now this is aside from the contractions of the uterus, you're going to undergo another labor when it comes to pooping. I'm telling you, when you think of going to the toilet, you need to first pray. You're going to undergo a second. It's like a second kind of labor, really, because you're going to be in so much pain when you go to poop, because most of the times you might suffer from, what do we call it? You might suffer from constipation, and it's going to be so painful when going to poop. You're going to undergo like a second kind of labor. Apart from the contraction of the uterus, the nipples cracking and all those other things, pooping is going to be a challenge for the first few days. And every time you feel like you need to poop, you're just going to need to, the thought of going for a long call is just going to make you feel, So really, the second, going to the loo is going to be tricky. So I would urge you, sisters, you better take a lot of fiber. Fiber is your friend, my friend. Fiber is your friend, my friend. Yeah. So now, The other thing that nobody is going to tell you, you're going to bleed a lot. And you're going to, at some point, think that you might die of bleeding. But really, you have enough blood in your body. So you're going to bleed a lot. That we call that lochia. Is it lochia? Yeah, lochia. And that it may take somewhere between 4 to 6 weeks of bleeding. And at some point, sometimes it looks like it's ending and then it comes back on. But mainly it's because, especially if you start working, doing some work, even around the house, if you start working around the house too soon, you might experience a lot of bleeding. So it's good, at least for the first few months, maybe 2-3 months, at least just take it slow, take it easy, so that you're not going to bleed so much. And during that time, it's also important that for the first few weeks, at least 4 to 6 weeks, just use pads. Don't use tampons, because tampons can bring in some infections. So really, it's better to use just pads, the maternity pads, not the normal, not the other kawaida pads. There's some specific pads for maternity. So for the first few weeks, use that so as to avoid bacterial infections if you're the kind of people who like to use tampons. Then also, the other thing that I can maybe advise you is choose clothes that you don't really care much about, especially for the first 6 weeks. At least don't wear your best clothes during that time, because there is a likelihood that you might stain your clothes because of the bleeding. So just choose clothes that you don't care much about. The other thing that you might experience is there will be letdown. There will be a lot of letdown, especially during the first few weeks. You see, with all the milk production, the breast engorgement and all, when the baby is breastfeeding on this breast, this other breast is like, most of the times, actually all the time, there'll be the milk will also be coming out of the other breast. So you'll be messing your clothes up every other time. So really, it's normal. Don't worry so much about that. And this letdown, it's funny, because for me, I was experiencing letdown, especially when I'm breastfeeding. This side, the other breasts, it will start leaking. Letdown is the leaking. Or I don't know whether it's just me or other people experience this. Maybe you can tell me, you can comment down below whether you've gone through such an experience. But for me, like when my baby was asleep, especially the first month or so, when the baby was asleep and maybe I'm not close to the baby, even when I had stepped out for a while, when the baby wakes up, funny enough, my breasts start leaking. I don't know whether it's a way of telling me that the baby has woken up, so I need to get back. So it's funny, I don't know whether it's something that someone else has experienced, but for me, every time I started feeling the leaking, I knew that it's time to feed the baby. And that time, when I get back, I find the baby has woken up and is ready to feed. Hey, one more thing. This is now number 11. You're going to deal with meconium. Meconium is the first poop that the baby poops. Some black, sticky substance, which looks so yuck. And that's something I honestly was so shocked when I saw that the first time. I didn't know that the first poop of a baby is black. So really, it's all the dirt that was in the baby's tummy. Maybe, yeah, I can say that. All the dirt that was in the baby's tummy before, at birth, is what will be coming off during that first time. So if you see the meconium, don't be so shocked like I was. So having said this, So having said this, it's important that the men in our lives support the women, because for some men they feel that they think that it's once the baby comes, that's it, you don't need to support this woman anymore. We normally tend to put so much, we normally tend to focus so much on the woman before she delivers and forget about her after she delivers, and now shift our focus to the baby. So I think it's time that men also assist their women and really get to have these conversations and get to understand what the woman goes through. In as much as these are experiences that the woman has to go through really as a person, and the man can't do much about it really, because it's something that the woman has to go through as herself. It's important that you just offer that support. Just support this woman. Just be a shoulder to cry on, because sometimes, by the way, we experience some mood swings. We call them baby blues, and sometimes it can even escalate to be postpartum depression. And that is a topic that we are going to cover one of these days, about postpartum depression. So it's important to have these men supporting the women, because it's hard. Taking care of a baby is not easy. Postpartum recovery is not easy. So let's not imagine that once the woman is out of the hospital, that everything is just going to go back to factory settings. And for the women, let's not think that once we are out of the hospital, now we are going to rest. Let us open our minds. Let us be ready for this, because this is what happens really. Why am I telling you this? The reason I'm telling you this is because I didn't have anyone to tell me. And I think it's my duty to use this platform to tell people what the truth. There is no point of us going there thinking that once we have our baby, it's all glam. And then the first week or two, the first month or two, you go through hell and nobody really told you about it. So really, this is part of what you're going to go through once you have a baby, once you have your first baby. And after that, it becomes kawaida. So once you have your first baby, that's part of what you're going to go through. For some people, you may go through all of those experiences that I have mentioned. For others, you may not go through all of them. You may go through other experiences which I have not mentioned. So if you have gone through other experiences that I haven't mentioned, please comment down below. Let us know, let us educate each other, let us inform each other, so that we can be able to just help each other along in this journey of motherhood, because it can be tough sometimes. But in all, we thank God for the joy of motherhood. Like, comment, subscribe, share to other platforms, tell a friend to tell a friend. Just share, let people know what motherhood is all about. Yeah. Bye-bye.